following program on Derana 24 is classified as PG. It is intended for younger children in the company of an adult. It may contain some suggestive dialogue, infrequent coarse language, some sexual situations, or some moderate violence. Viewer discretion is advised. The following program contains opinions of the participants and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network. The network believes in a safe space for all ideas to be expressed without any censorship and on its duty to create such a platform for free speech. Viewer discretion is strictly advised.
Hello and welcome to TPS, a program that we have carefully curated to answer the questions that you want answers to the most. And most importantly, we are here to ensure that all political parties of Sri Lanka are held accountable and answerable. Now, on today's episode of TPS, I am joined with Arun Hemachandra, representing the National People's Power and Member of Parliament, as well as the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Employment. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for inviting.
And on to my right, I'm joined with Chamith wijesundera, representing the Samagi Jana Balawegaya and is also the national organizer of SJB Youth. Welcome to the show as well. Thanks. Now, gentlemen, on today's TPS episode, we'll be discussing about current affairs of Sri Lanka, specifically on to governance and policy implementation. Now, the catch about today's episode is that we will be getting a youth perspective onto the current impact and the current, let's say, trend that Sri Lanka is currently following. Now, on this particular segment, or rather on this particular topic, I would like to ask the very first question from our government party. Now, in your own aspect, in your own opinion, Arun, what sort of measures have NPP really taken to stabilize the economy, given the fact that you have taken power of Sri Lanka last September? It's been a couple of months now. What policies have been implemented to stabilize our economy?
Well, it's a good question. Now, as a very responsible government, what we have done at the moment is like we want to eradicate the corruption, and also we have to put everything back in order. Because what has really happened in the past is like things were not in order, and we don't have ample statistics and we don't have ample facilities to go forward. So immediately what we are doing is it's about making a strong foundation. So without a strong foundation, we cannot have a strong building. So like that, the country also should have a strong foundation in order to grow. So we are making all those things in a proper way, and also we are managing finance in a very proper way, because in the past there were a lot of leakages. So we are doing our utmost to prevent these leakages, and basically it's about the organizing part. So that may be one of the reasons why certain things could not be experienced, those are not tangible, so those could not be experienced, but then again we are seriously working in order to put everything in order. So we believe everything will be all right.
All right, so do you agree for the fact that NPP is going for a slow but successful recovery plan?
Yeah, what we need to have is a very steady policy here. So it's about maintaining the stability. It's about maintaining the policy, because in the past what was happening is, every budget or in between budget proposals, there are a lot of alterations. So things were not happening according to what the real plans were. Everything were politicalized and based on personal interest, decisions were taken, and we believe, that is not how a country should go forward. So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to implement a very strong policy. And this is a policy-oriented government, and especially the people needed a kind of a change in the political culture. And that culture has been shown to the public from the political authority, especially from the ruling party. So we have done a lot of sacrifices from our side. And what we're trying to do here is, we are creating a new political culture, and we are bringing the country forward. So without that transformation, the country cannot go forward. So we are satisfied with what we have done so far.
So far. Now, taking that progress into account, Chamith, I would like to ask you the question this way. Now, NPP took power of Sri Lanka. They've been for the past couple of months. And then, like Arun mentioned also, they're going for a recovery method while also stabilizing the economy. From SJB's point of view, how would you measure up NPP's current economic progress?
Again, thanks again for inviting me for this program. Mainly what I would like to say is, in 2021, SJB was the party which spoke about the economy mainly before, when the existing Gotabaya Rajapaksa government was disagreeing while when we were telling to go to the IMF, they disagreed. I think that's one point where we could have negotiated things better if we went at that point, but that unfortunately the government at that point didn't. And I think in my opinion, SJB has presented a proper plan when it came to the economy, but unfortunately the people didn't think so. What I feel is, I think the NPP government, I don't want to criticize, because we all advocate for better politics and politicians, and saying that I'm in the opposition, I don't want to criticize everything what the government is doing. But I think when it comes to the economy, I think the people were misled, because the government basically, they said they are going to get rid of the DSA when it came to the IMF and renegotiate the whole plan. But as you see now, it's not possible at all. We kept on saying that it's not possible, but the government, the president, and the old members, especially people like Sunil Handunnetti, kept on saying that they will, by hook or by crook, they will change the IMF program. But to be positive about things, the government is going in the right direction. So we don't need to do unnecessary politics saying that we are in two sides. What matters is the country and the stability. So I think it's too soon to judge right now, to be very honest. So I think we should give some more time, and whatever the mistakes which are being done, or to be, if there is something to be, happen, I think as opposition we will point it out. I think Harsha De Silva is already doing an amazing job in Parliament. So I think the government should not do the same mistake which the Gotabaya Rajapaksa government did, because we did the same thing. We raised questions, we gave our opinions, they didn't listen. So I hope this government is not so, and they'll take the positive out of what the opposition has to say.
Now, according to what you mentioned, Chamith, the issue was, a prominent issue that you mentioned was the fact that NPP promised to go for a debt restructuring and sort of scrap off the existing IMF agreement and come up with a new one. Now, if I'm to send the same question your way, now, this IMF issue has been a center point when it comes to a lot of opposition's argument. What are your thoughts with regards to this? And since you have a great deal to contribute towards foreign affairs, let me ask you the question in the sense of how exactly has the government strengthened Sri Lanka's, let's say, foreign relations, and also how did this whole turn of IMF and the debt restructuring really appear? Is it true whatever the claims that the opposition is making, or is there something else, another method of remedy that NPP has taken?
There are two questions here.
Yes,
one is
definitely.
in terms of our foreign affairs part. That was one of the key aspects that the opposition was emphasizing in regards to targeting NPP during the election campaign time, because what they were telling is, NPP is not capable enough to handle the foreign affairs sector. So basically it's about a kind of criticism, that they were thinking that we are not ample enough to hold that portfolio and to bring the country forward. But fortunately, we have proven ourselves, and all those criticisms have become a daydream. and day by day we are strengthening. Especially, we have a very balanced foreign diplomatic policy. So we are balancing India, we are balancing China, and also we are working very closely with USA, and also Russia is here. So, and also now we are exploring a new market which Sri Lanka was only focusing for the human resource sector, that is the Middle Eastern market. But then again, the Middle Eastern market is really huge. So we are trying to explore the oil industry, and we're trying to bring in direct foreign investment from Middle East. So we are working in various directions. Mm-hmm. And also European Union has commended certain activities and the progress that has taken place. And I saw a news, even the United Nations is very happy with the progress that are taking place here. So we are well off, and we are very happy with our diplomatic relations with all the nations and the international organizations. And also we have to be really thankful to the diplomats, especially the career diplomats, those who are doing a tremendous job in order to put the country in the proper pathway. So we are very happy about that. And also in regards to the IMF, yes, it's a tricky question once again. But then again, as a country, we have to understand we face bankruptcy, and IMF was the only choice. And even the president has emphasized that way before he became president and way before the country became bankrupt, he clearly said one thing: we need some kind of an assistance from a third party. Mm-hmm. So that includes IMF also. So basically, when we were on our way to the drastic bankruptcy that the country faced, we needed somebody to help us and to bail us out. So that happened. Though we had criticisms, we had to accept that finally we had to accept the IMF. But then again, we can keep on asking, we can keep on requesting for renegotiations, and as a country we have to do that. We have to make sure that the mandate that has been given by the people to us should be fulfilled. People's expectations should be upheld. So as a government, we will do our utmost to discuss with them and convince them to the level that we could be convinced. Mm-hmm. So we will do our level best.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Arun, the point of the fact is that, yes, initially NPP wanted to, let's say, part ways with IMF, but then realized that actually IMF is required as a third party for the country's betterment, and then decided to align in a path that will benefit both parties. Is that correct?
In a way it's right, because it's not always our opinion that is the final decision or final opinion of everybody. So each and everybody can have our own opinion. But then again, when a decision is made, may not be by us, may not be by the previous rulers or whatever, then we have to be diplomatic enough to keep everything in the right track. So it's about all or nothing deal, so we cannot lose everything at a time. But then again, we can request for restructuring, which even today in the Parliament, our Deputy Minister of Finance was emphasizing in regards to requesting certain reforms and things, and certain things within the given criteria. We have done certain things, especially when it comes to the reduction of electricity bills and also the pay tax. Within the given criteria, we have tried our level best to do that, because in the past, when things were happening in such way, even impeachment were passed in the Parliament, and the Public Utility Commission's chairman was impeached. So it's not like that. So we follow a pragmatic approach. So we are trying to balance the IMF, the public, and also as a government, we should not. We have to be really careful on the expenditures and the profits of the SOEs and things. So we are very careful.
With that
regard. So it's an art of balancing.
Got it. So then if I'm to take that argument of, all right, initially IMF was to be parted ways with, but realized that the country actually needs IMF, and then decided to adapt it into the current going policy. Now, Chamith, if I ask this, when your argument was the fact that NPP said there's not going to be IMF anymore, but then now they're dealing with IMF. Is the opposition's, let's say, regard or say opposition towards this IMF deal, the new stated IMF deal with NPP, was the fact that they said the IMF was not to happen, but it's happening? Or do you think that the new structured IMF method is actually not doing any good for Sri Lanka?
No, I think, people are very clear. I think you're also very clear. During the election, it was very clear, especially, we all thought, people used to say Sunil Handunetti was going to be the finance minister. He himself proclaimed that he can be one of the best finance ministers because he knows economics. And he, mostly in all election rallies, he spoke about the economy. And at every TV debate, there are so many videos flying around now what he said before NPP coming into power. So he basically said that the IMF, that they will not go ahead with the IMF plan. And there are, just one specific thing, I can remember how they said the EPF was unfairly treated with the IMF plan, and that the small, the regular, normal person is being unfairly treated. And that's one reason why they gave that as they come to power, they will rip off the IMF agreement. This was one reason, because it's unfairly, for the EPF holders, it's an unfair treatment by the IMF. So likewise, there were several points given why they will get out of the IMF program. What I'm saying is, now, I think once they came into power, I think they realized that they cannot really get out of the program, and I think it's not an easy job to get out of program, especially with our economic situation. So I'm glad that we are going through the process, and it's fine. You can change policies, you can change ideas. I think the main thing is what the government has to do is just admit, yes, either we were wrong or we have changed our plan because of X, Y, Z. I think the people just want honesty. And if you're just being honest with whatever there is, you just don't have to, election promises. I think all Sri Lankans, you and I, we are used to election promises. And at least if you're coming out and saying because of these reasons we can't, hold those promises and we have to change our decisions, I think people are ready to admit it. And I think that this current government has a very good mandate and support of the people. I think it's going down also slowly because they're trying to defend what they are doing now, and they're not admitting that they said something else and they're doing something completely different now. So I think if they're just being honest and say look, yes, we said this, but now looking at the situation, we can't do certain things. And if they're honest, I think that's what people want. That's what the youth wants. That's what young people like us. That's why I said when I came here, I'm saying that I'm, representing the opposition. I don't want to blame the MPP, and I'm very glad and happy to see a very young person becoming a, minister of a deputy minister, know. So, the change has happened. I think both our parties and I think members of our parties wanted this change. We have different policies in different, when it comes to economy or different agendas we have and different policies. But I think both of us wanted that change, and I think in our separate ways we fought for that change.
Definitely.
And I think just being honest is the best thing moving forward.
So end of the day, it's all about ensuring that whatever policies, reforms are put into play really work out for Sri Lanka. Now with that thought, gentlemen, we'll have to go for a very short break and we'll be back with our next segment. Please stay tuned. This is TPS. Welcome back to TPS. We are currently in conversation with two youths from the parliament, from our governing party and also from the opposition, here to debate on our current segment, which topic will be about accountability and transparency, basically ethical governance. Now, I would like to pose the very first question with this regard to you, Chamith. Now, a lot of people had the concern, or the entirety of Sri Lanka had the concern with regards to corruption. You also mentioned when it comes to the current policies, whatever government takes up, what Sri Lanka needs is transparency and honesty. Had SJB been appointed as the governing party, as the ruling party, what sort of reforms would SJB have implemented? And what are your critiques on the current NPP's policy in terms of ethicalness and corruption?
Well, I think, we also, during the election, we promised that we will take legal action against all government corruption which went during the previous regimes. And being very honest, I think as a party, we took some unnecessary decisions by taking, people had certain opinions of certain people. So I think SJB did a blunder by taking some. Whether they are innocent or not is yet to be seen, but I think people have the opinion of certain people, and I think that's one reason that I think we lost the election. And I think the party has learnt a lesson, and we can't associate ourselves with unnecessary people who have tarnished their names and who have got involved in different things, different unnecessary dealings with the government. But I think the laws are more than enough to, take action against the culprits. But I think the process is very slow. I think that's another challenge which the NPP will face. I hope and pray that for the NPP government's sake, for Arun Disanayaka's sake, because they were harping on this issue. So if they do not deliver on it, like how the previous government, how the people reacted, I think the same reaction, this government will have to face, because I think people really want justice. So we also hope and pray that justice will happen to Sri Lanka. And whoever it is, the culprits have to come into, face the situation. I'm sorry, what was the other question? What
sort of other approaches would have SJB put in place if they were actually the ruling party in terms of corruption and ethical governance?
Corruption, I think I think just making, even I think during the Hapalne government, having a special court. So even for the Easter Sunday attacks, the opposition leader gave a plan presented to Parliament saying how they will put a special court and get international authorities to come and investigate and expedite these investigations. I think a similar approach was the SJB plan as well. And so I think those were the plans which was the SJB planning on when it came to corruption.
So that was the response if SJB had been the ruling party. Now, since NPP is the ruling party, yes, we saw a couple of reforms that are actually battling towards corruption and promoting anti-corruption, because that was part of the manifesto, yes? Corruption was to be eradicated and Sri Lanka was to be treated equally amongst all parties and amongst all statuses. Now, according to your opinion, and since you are also part and parcel of NPP, have policies that you have implemented, now Chamith mentioned maybe it's going to be a very slow progress that's going to happen. Do you agree with this? Or do you think, okay, maybe we're actually going the right way and the general opinion on the fact that corruption is now eradicated at a very slow pace is incorrect?
Well, before everything we have to understand one thing, that NPP's fully fledged government is just little more than 2 months old. So I think within this particular given period, we have done the utmost which none of the previous governments have done. So we are happy about that. And also we have to understand one thing, none of our activities, none of our movements should become kind of political victimizing. So we have to make sure one thing, we should not be hurry in anything. So this happened in 2015, where a lot of allegations were brought in forward, and then again, the government at this time was much interested on arresting and remanding the culprits, and based on that, the entire process was kind of tarnished, because the entire motive was to just arrest and remand and to make a media news out of it. So NPP government does not believe in that. It's not about arresting, or it's not about remanding, or it's not about anything. It's about proper trial in the courts or a tribunal or whatever. So that we are doing our utmost. So a lot of investigations have been resumed, and I'm very happy to say one of my well-wisher, he talked to me recently. He's also a witness to one of the cases which he gave a statement in 2006. And while he was talking to me, he said, I'm very happy that case has been reopened. So many halted cases have been reopened, and we are trying our level best to bring those things forward, because due to political pressure, many cases could not go forward. So as you know, the court proceedings are something different, compared to the other ministerial or other departmental activities, because for the court proceedings, the prosecutor should provide ample evidence and details to the courts, and that of course was controlled in the past by the governments. But then again, we have made those things independent, and we are doing our utmost to punish the criminals, and so we will make sure all those people would be brought in front of the law. May take a little time, but then again, gradually that will happen, especially when it comes to wijesundera attacks. At the moment, even the president declared certain things a couple of days ago in regards to, we have reached a key milestone in the case, so we cannot reveal everything to the media, even certain things even we do not know, even being the deputy minister or what. The authorities, those who are investigating, they know the key facts, so they will produce those things to the courts and let the courts take decisions based on the evidence. So like that, we are investigating into so many things, and I also have this question in my mind: what in case President AKD did not become president on 21st of September or 22nd of September? So I always have the problem in the mind, because if he did not become president, sometimes most of these cases or most of these problems would not have brought forward, and they may not have tried. So we are optimistic. Things it may seem to be slow, but those are very steady activities, those are taking place, and investigators are working really hard. So it's not only about media activities or media show, it's about beyond reasonable doubt. We have to go forward, and we have to prosecute the wrongdoers.
So let's actually answer your question. Had SJB been the ruling party, how would you answer Arun's question? Would these cases resurface? Would they be open once again? Will justice, now still it is in the progress of being served, will it be served under an SJB government?
To be very honest with you, Sajith Premadasa is a person, he's a very honest person, and even with us, discipline is discipline. When it comes to the party, internally, there's a lot of freedom, but if you do something wrong, he will take disciplinary action. So likewise, his motive and his, objective was, the Cardinal knows this best. He had several meetings explaining the process of the commission that he was going to put in place. And I don't know whether I'm supposed to say this, but I personally know that the leader of the opposition, Sajith Premadasa, and the team who went with the lawyers, he actually said certain members who will be appointed into this committee that the Cardinal will be able to appoint. So, those kind of things, because he really wants justice for these people. that tragic moment, what happened. And I think at that point, he was the only person who assisted the churches. And at a point where the cardinal and didn't let any politician come into the churches, which was damaged, I think the only politician who was able to go and who was only permitted was Sajid Premadasa. So he promised, and he's a guy who, delivers on that promise. And I personally believe that Sajid Premadasa would have taken necessary steps to bring justice to the victims of the Easter Sunday attacks. And when it comes to other corruptions, I think he's a genuine guy. I mean, he doesn't want unnecessary problems occurring because of, unnecessary issues which the other MPs get involved in.
Arun, did that answer your question?
Yeah, everybody can have their own perspective and opinion, so I'm not going to deny that. But then again, we are happy and we are satisfied with what we have done. So let us go forward.
Gentlemen, end of the day, it's all about gaining Sri Lanka's trust. It's all about having the trust that a political party could have in terms of its people. Now that's where Sri Lanka went wrong when we had the Aragale and everything. That came up because people no longer trusted the government. That is why an overthrow happened. That is why people were so unhappy. This question is for the both of your parties, for both of your gentlemen. Either party can decide to go first. What has either party done to actually establish that trust amongst people? Now, be it the ruling party, be it the opposition, people need to have sort of a trust on the ruling party that no, they're going to do good. Likewise, people also need to have the trust that opposition is going to contest the government, the ruling party, and ensure that they are in the correct path. Let's open it up.
All right. So, to make this question easy, let me divide into three parts. One is, as a country, we faced a bad economic crisis. And that economic crisis led to a very serious social crisis. And then with the economic and social crisis, we had to undergo a very serious political crisis. So at the moment, following the November 14th election, the country does not have any more political crisis because we have a very strong mandate, and the mandate is aligning with the people's expectations or the whatever. So initially what we have done is we have to ensure that the people's trust is kept. So we are changing the political culture, and that is being taken place. So for example, we have reduced the expenses from the presidential level, from the prime minister level, and if you compare the expenses of our ministers is much lesser than what it was taking place in the past. And it is not only to do with the expenses, it is also something to do with the practices. So I know there's an example, I do not want to mention any names here, because since the show is going on in the right direction. But then again, there was a minister who was also affiliated to the Foreign Affairs Ministry in the past, and then I was having a chit chat with one of our staffs, and then I got to know that his mother was a private secretary of him, and his wife was a coordinating secretary, something like that, which has taken place in the past. So we have changed that culture. We have introduced something new. We don't have any relatives in our team. We have good well-wishers, we have good people, those who can really bring this country forward in our team. So like that, we have done a drastic transformation in the political culture. And you won't see any VIP movements, VIP conveys at the moment in the country. So it is entirely different. So we want the parliamentarians, we want the political authorities to abide the law. And that itself has brought the transformation in the expectation what the people were wanting, and we believe that the NPP has given that. So politically we are strong, we have done that transformation, and now we are addressing very seriously into the economic as well as the social aspect. So we need to have very strong economy, We need to bring in more investments. We need to bring in, we have to eradicate the rural level poverty as early as possible, and we have to eradicate the corruption. So it is in a positive way, and we are gaining support from various stakeholders. So that part is also all right. So when we have a vital solution for the economic crisis, gradually the social crisis will go down. The hospitals will be filled with medicines. The farmers will have ample water. Farmers will have ample fertilizers, and they will have a good marketing method. So we can address so many issues. So now the political part is over. We are addressing very sternly to the economic related things. So we believe we can get out of the economic crisis as early as possible. So it's due process. We are doing our utmost. So we hope things should be all right in the near future. So it is being practiced.
And that is how?
That's how it is.
Sure. What about SJB? How are we on building trust with people, especially as the opposition?
I think the main thing is trust when it comes to, voting and democracy. And I think that's what the current president was going on, saying that his party is very honest, they're not corrupt. But have they been honest? Started off, I can remember when the government, the first issue was the former speaker, with his regard to his education qualifications. I don't know, he has said that he's going to Japan to bring his qualifications back. I don't know whether he's back or not. So likewise, there were so many other MPs from the government who had issues like that. So what I'm saying is, if you're really honest as a president, when the president knows there's these kind of things, you're blatantly lying to your voter, saying that if you're not an engineer, you don't have to be embarrassed. If you haven't done your O-levels, if you haven't done your A-levels, or if you have your masters, or even if you're a doctor. It's all about practicality. No point, studying until you become a doctor or whatever. It's all about practice. That's why even you graduate becoming a doctor, you have to have practical knowledge of doing operation or whatever. So what I'm saying is, where's the real action taken? Personally, what I believe is, if someone's at fault and if someone has lied, and if we went on saying, there are honest people in our ranks and no corruption and we are honest, and if you have blatantly lied to the people to get votes, to say that you are a professional, and if you're not, if I was the president, I would take action saying they should be kicked out of parliament. So, because if you really want the honest change, what the people really want, then you have to start it. So I think likewise, the promises given by the government before the election, that's what I'm saying. I think that's why either you come out saying that you all were wrong, or the government was wrong, or we could have done, we are doing things differently, just be honest, or I think to cover a lie, you're telling another 100 lies. Like what I'm saying is, now recently AKD went to India, and now he's talking about the Trincomalee, the tanks. And that project was, initially started with, I think Udaya Gammampila signed it with India. So I don't know the details on it, but I know he signed it with India in 2022. So, but at that point, what AKD said, going on saying that these are unnecessary investments, that India is trying to take over Sri Lanka, and many, especially now I saw at his speech in Kalutara yesterday, he was going on about the Chinese investments and how there's another conference hall like BMICH going to be built by the Chinese at the port city. If AKD was in the opposition right now, he would be talking about saying we have BMICH, we have one in Hambantota, can't remember the name. We have two, why are you all building another one in Colombo? So what I'm saying is, what I asked the people and the MPP also is, just imagine, when there was an investment coming into Sri Lanka, every time, Right now, that's why you don't see the opposition SJB, criticizing government when investments are flowing in. I mean, when Adani came into, this huge wind power projects, I mean, Sri Lanka needs investments. That's the bottom line. Because we are always complaining if an investment is coming in, we are always, getting on the roads, seeing, we are always negative about it. I think that's why we are here right now. I mean, we talk about becoming a Singapore or becoming a Malaysia, or, we can be one of the biggest countries in the South Asian region, but we are not with our location and all that. But we are not, because I think the past, the JVP, I'm not blaming the MPP and the newcomers because they have nothing to do with this, but AKD is partly responsible, because and there are enough and more, examples. Any investment, like I can show enough and more videos right now on my phone, how he criticized the Indian government, the Chinese government for investments. There might be certain issues when the projects start. But what I'm saying is, this is before anything starts. He's talking about how China is going to be, how we are becoming a colony of China. I mean, so I think those things should stop. I think it has stopped. I'm glad that Arun Dissanayake is pro-investment now. So I'm very happy. And I think as the opposition, we are also happy if an investment comes in. I mean, we are very happy because it's end of the day, it's Sri Lanka. And I'm very happy I think in yesterday's speech, he said a loan was turned into a grant, which is good, So we are opposition. We are not going to be saying that we are in the opposition. We are not just going to blame the government and criticize the government. What is good is good. But what is bad, that's what I asked the NPP, supporters, when we meet them also. As citizens also, I think we should have the backbone to call it out. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, yes, it's good for the country. That's the change what we should all advocate for.
Now, with that thought, of course, I feel like it's quite an interesting topic, and I feel like, Arun, you have a lot of answers to give as well. But for the interest of time, gentlemen, we'll have to go for a very short commercial break, and right after the break, we can continue on this discussion. We will be back soon. This is TPS. Welcome back to TPS. Right before the break, we were getting the response from Chamith with regards to how the opposition is planning to uphold their trust. And with that came in a little bit of questions that I believe Arun would love to answer. Go ahead.
Well, now the problem was not with the investments in the past. The major issue was about the negotiations and about the transparency of each and every projects. So most of the time, what has happened in the past is, our rulers went up to the extent to provide what even the party which was requesting was not requiring. So, for example, when it comes to Milco, they were even ready to provide NLDB along with Milco when Amul company, when they came forward and when they were asking. So, when we came into power, we were able to restructure those things. So we, as a responsible government, what we had to do is, we had to bring in needed projects. We need projects, but at the same time, we have to omit the projects that should not be given to the outside sector. So in that basis, we have a mandate, we have a plan, and according to the plan, it's working. So we have chosen certain fields, and when it comes to the oil tanks, I was also one of the protesters, but then again, the project that we are proposing at the moment is entirely different to what the previous regimes were proposing. So it's now we are talking about a joint venture, it's about a win-win situation. So it's different. So, but entirely it was different in the past. So we are renegotiating everything in the betterment, for the betterment of the country. So likewise, now there are a lot of questions arising about Adani's projects, which the agreements have been signed in the past. And also we have to understand one more thing. Since I am the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs also, I understand many discussions were not done in a transparent way between parties in Sri Lanka, because basically if the foreign, if an investor is coming and if he's discussing with the government of Sri Lanka, the foreign ministry has to be informed, and there are separate desks for each and every sectors. So that sector should be involved in the discussions and they should have records. But unfortunately, we don't have records for many discussions that have taken place in the past. So since we have introduced transparency, it is easy for both parties, even the government of Sri Lanka and even to the investors. So that had cleared the path for us, and that may be one of the reasons why we are bringing in investment so fast, though they were blocked at some point in the past. So we believe things are working on the right track, and hopefully in the next meetings we can have more updates in regards to the country's situation.
Now, Arun, to ask you briefly on a claim that we got from Chamith with regards to the former speaker. Now, it was quite a diabolical turn for a lot of Sri Lankans when they got to know about this, because a political manifesto that preached about transparency, putting the right people in the right spot, and right, Chamith pointed out also, those were part and parcel of the manifesto. What are your thoughts on this? What went wrong there?
To be honest, I know the former speaker very well. I know him for last so many years, a very reasonable person, and I believe he is well qualified, though he was unable to provide whatever the credentials or the certificates or whatever. But he's a well qualified person and he's a very down-to-earth person. So he was unable to provide the certificates or the credentials, and then he provided his resignation, and President he accepted. This would not have been the similar situation in the past if this was taking place under the previous regimes. So he took that decision. So maybe there are proposals, there are requests, there are plea from the opposition for him to resign from his MP seat. I think
so. It's currently an ongoing issue that's going forward.
I think that is not the need. He stepped down from his position, and that is done. And on the other hand, we have to understand one thing: we were not, deliberately protecting him or whatever if he has done the wrong thing, or maybe we were not defending him. So, but then again, that's the new culture that we have introduced to the country, to the politics of Sri Lanka. So we are satisfied with the decisions that he has taken.
All right, okay. So with that, Chamith, in a very brief segment, what would be your closing remarks? Let's keep it very short.
Basically, what I would like to say is walk the talk and deliver on the promises that you have given.
Amazing. That was quite a short closing. I think that was to the point. So once again, thank you so much, gentlemen, specifically to Arun Hemachandra, representative from the National People's Power and Member of Parliament and Deputy Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Employment. Thank you so much for joining in on today's conversation.
Once again.
Likewise, thank you so much to Chamith Wijesundera, representing the Samagijana Balavegaya and the national organizer for SJP. Thank you so much. So gentlemen, I think it was quite a productive discussion that we had today, and we hope it was the same for our wonderful audience as well. We'll be back again on a very bright Tuesday with another topic that you want answers to. We'll be back. This is TPS. See you next time.
She's hit the ground, she's down and out, and now she's lost the will to rise. With all that's left, she lifts her head, looks disaster in the eyes, defies remand and finds the strength to stand, no longer disinclined. She takes a step toward all that lies ahead. She keeps these words in mind: you can spend your whole life wasting away when there's a world to discover. Now you gotta get up, you gotta move on, you gotta push yourself along. You can rest when it's over, but now you gotta get up. And now she's back, they couldn't keep her away. way. She hit the bottom, but she knew it wasn't an option to stay. And even though she'd almost given up, she felt she couldn't betray the steady voice in her head that tells her every day to try and be someone better until a difference is made.